Yo. Yo. Is that you goons? I don't know me. So today, what we're doing is we're making a final tier list for part 1 of season 2 of Guilty Gear Strive. Now, a few things to note. This tier list is at tournament level play. It does not apply to all levels of play, and in fact, a substantial minority of levels of play. I consider tournament play to be someone who can at least break even consistently in relatively large online tournaments and so forth. So that should mean that you're winning a significant majority of your games against random people in Celestial, for example. But even then, there's a lot of variance within tournament level play, and I'm sort of more talking about the higher level. So people who can top 8 relatively consistently, or let's say top 24 actually, because online brackets can be very stacked. Top 8, not super consistent for anyone even. And this time I'll try to mute or go away from my mic when I drink water, as I just did, because in my other matchup chart, you heard me gulping. So the way this works is I'm not having like an A tier, an S tier, a B tier, etc. It's kind of de facto that way, but what's more important, I think, is the distance between characters, not just the ordering of how good multiple characters are. I don't know how somehow so many people overlook this. Like, it doesn't matter if X character is top 5 or top 6 or whatever. If they're very far or very close to the next character, you might as well interchange their places. It doesn't really matter, right? Also, it helps me get a little bit more nuanced with this sort of discussion. So with that being said, let's get right into it. Now, I'll start off with the easy one. Happy Chaos. Okay, this is not what I want. Happy Chaos. Yeah. This character is beyond fucked up. And it's so weird. I don't understand when people try to gatekeep Happy Chaos being broken, because they're like, oh, because you didn't play X or Y fighting game, this character was truly broken. To me, that just tells me that, A, it's weird that that's your first reaction. B, you don't know what you're talking about. Because if you're good at this game, you understand the bullshittery that this character is capable of. So let me just try to break it down for anyone who doesn't have a full understanding or thinks that there's anyone even comparable to Happy Chaos. Bear in mind, everything here is my opinion, but I am a top player, at least on Goldlewis, so just saying. Anyway, this character has hands down the best mix-ups in the entire game, and a fundamental part of his game plan is getting you into mix from basically anywhere on the screen and taking you coast to coast more or less off of any hit. And it's really obnoxious because not only does he have the best mix in the game, in the sense that like there's pretty much a strict upper bound in terms of how well you can learn to play against this character, because past a certain point it's just guess and pray, or have god gamer reactions or a god ability to like download the opponent and understand patterns in their mix-ups. But I mean, nobody can do that. Nobody. Even Nubenheimer, who I consider like the best display of Happy Chaos defense in the entire world. I mean, he gets opened up consistently. I mean, that's how you lose to Happy Chaos, but you can't do anything about it. So not only is this the character with the best mix in the game, he can also loop that mix infinitely until you die. And he can set up that infinite mix off of almost any grounded hit. Almost any grounded hit. And doing lots of damage in the process, if he so chooses, or if he gets the wrong hit. Instead, he just gets a coast-to-coast wall break. So, very, very, very obnoxious, this character. He also is still a very, very capable zoner. He has excellent normals, and just overall, the amount of stupidity this character can output is utterly, utterly unrivaled in this game. That's all I'm really going to say about Happy Chaos for now. There isn't much more to get into. This character is broken, and in my opinion, the only one that is in desperate need of nerfs in Season 2. Okay, moving on to what many people consider to be the next best character, but I actually don't. I'm going to put Nago here. I want to emphasize that there's a large gap between Happy Chaos and the next best characters, as far as I'm aware, as far as my opinion goes. So Nago is great at tournament level for many, many reasons. There are some characters he just invalidates, so that's always nice, especially if they're more popular characters, and in Nago's case, a lot of them are more popular characters. He has decent matchups into a lot of the other really strong characters, like Ramlethal and Leo. He does well against them, and some of them can do okay against Happy Chaos, but it's definitely Happy Chaos favored. In any case, Nago is so great at tournament level because he just applies an insane amount of pressure on you, and he can get that pressure started, if he's low on blood, from pretty much anywhere at any time, as long as he's not like utterly telegraphed. In some matchups, you start in disadvantage. Like Goldlewis versus Nago, Goldlewis starts the game in disadvantage against Nago. And what he can do a lot of the time, once he gets in, is if he doesn't open you up and nuke you, he basically pushes you to the corner in his block string, and then he's on level 2 blood, and playing the keep out game while the opponent's in the corner with that is just extremely oppressive, taking tons of chip and risk at the same time, all while he's building his blood back. Not to mention an incredible strike throw game, the most rewarding command grab in the entire game that Nago can set up off of pretty much any hard knockdown, because the strike throw between close slash and command grab is so rewarding. No character in the entire game has a strike throw as rewarding as that, even Potemkin, for example. Yeah, another aspect of Nago that's so great, similar to Happy Chaos and a lot of characters around this level of strength, they have amazing abilities to convert and deal tons of damage in the process. So great pressure, great neutral, a really consistent way to get their turn started, and just devastating pressure. That is fundamentally what contributes to Nago being such a good character at the moment. You could get super specific with all the bullshit that this character can do, but I want to leave it there for now. Let's go into the next one. Talk about Ram for a minute. So, I would say Ram is... this is meant to be read only horizontally, vertically has no meaning. Ram is a little bit stronger than Nago at tournament level, but still definitely a good amount below Happy Chaos. The reason I think so is that Ram is more consistent. So I think Nago is more oppressive and oftentimes harder to play against because he has fundamentally more guessing involved that are all super high risk if you're the defender. However, he does have some struggle matchups. There's no denying it that he has a hard time against like Happy Chaos, struggles with Jacko, Axel can be a pain for him, Faust, etc. You know, I mean, this is just my opinion. Bear in mind, I'm not an expert on these characters, but that's just my understanding. Zato can be hard for him at times. I mean, characters that have a good way of keeping him locked down once he's high on blood, they tend to do pretty well. Characters that need to run in to get their game plan started, they really struggle against Nago. But we're talking about Ram. Ram doesn't have those inconsistencies, and she has a phenomenal matchup spread. There are basically no characters in this game that have like an easy matchup into Ram. I can't think of any. Even Happy Chaos does well, but definitely doesn't stomp. And this character has phenomenal neutral again, incredible ground speed, incredible disjoints, some of the best S buttons in the entire game, if not the best, a great 6P, and again, amazing ability to convert and deal high damage, especially thanks to the dash cancel changes in Season 2. Now, what's so annoying about Ram is that not only does she do a ton of damage, but all of her combos are like automatically burst safe. Actually, all three of these characters have very burst safe combos, but Ram especially. Oh my god. The fact that she can do 60% in a burst safe combo off of like a 6P starter from stagger pressure. I mean, unironically, that happens like 10 times a stream over on Latif's stream when he fights Zondo. It's beyond obnoxious sometimes, right? This character also has the best reversal super. That's very handy in some scenarios. Like Zato, he can't ever 2k2d against Ram. I don't know if you guys knew that. If he does, she gets a guaranteed reversal super if the Axel doesn't have meter 2RC to keep himself safe. Yeah, so things like that basically pop up in every character's fight against Ram. Some level of bullshit happens to you. Like, these characters just have premium bullshit up here. They are so dumb, but I want to emphasize again, Happy Chaos is far above the rest of these. Okay, let's move on. Next up, I'm going to go with Leo. So, Leo is a decent amount weaker than these two characters, but he's still very good. Similar to Ram, he has a really consistent game plan and not a lot of super struggle matchups. Like, I'm sure that some of these characters can be annoying, but it's certainly winnable with Leo. I know that Nago might be a little hard, but the time has shown that Rem and Happy Chaos are very doable with Leo. That automatically makes him a strong contender at tournament level. I can't actually say the same for literally any of these remaining characters, that they can consistently beat with similar skill level all three of these, or even come close to beating all three of them, as Leo does. He does struggle with Nago though. So his mix is amazing. His game plan is so consistent. Amazing stagger pressure. His conversions are lacking compared to those other three, for sure. And he's definitely a little bit riskier. He plays a strike throw game so well though. And of course, having that charge input DP and getting the back turn stance mix off of it is utterly disgusting. He's also got cross up in the corner now in Season 2. It's actually quite strong with red RC. He can keep his turn even sometimes if it gets blocked. Very good character overall. Large health pool, and he can kind of just Pepega gamble sometimes because he has so much health to work with, and his win condition is so devastating. Also quite a burst safe character if the Leo knows how to stance cancel well, and even if the opponent blocks extremely well, and they kind of catch on to your mix-up patterns, which they shouldn't be, but even if they do, you're still plus a lot of the time, so Leo tends to perform well. All these characters, they have consistent offense. They have consistent threatening and very hard to block offense. That makes them good at tournament level, again, by default. So, I'm going to actually move these characters over a bit. So I want to emphasize that Happy Chaos is quite a bit above the rest of these, but, you know, these guys are kind of similar, these three, in my opinion, but Leo's behind a bit. Okay, moving on. I like to think of the next set of characters as all being in like the same cluster. So I'm going to start with Baiken here, because I actually think she's on top of that cluster. So this character is seriously scary in Season 2. Also has a great mix-up game, and also has devastating damage and scary offense at pretty much all times. Super degenerate gorilla staggers. Oh my god. The great thing about Baiken is that she really just gets so much more than most characters off of getting in, and especially off of getting a grab. And this character can condition you really hard, and eventually just take a gamble that normally wouldn't be in their favor. H. Kabari 2. But if it works out for them, they get insane reward, insane damage. Character can convert into hard knockdowns off of pretty much everything. What's not to love? Counter hit Yazansen, stupid starter that gives her a bombo for some reason. Yeah, just a fundamentally high-low mix. It's hard to block. It's great, but she can get it consistently, and it does super high damage. And she has a very solid matchup spread. She can contend with some of these characters up here. She can. I wouldn't say she does great into them, but she can definitely play the game. And just because her win condition is so strong, similar to these guys, against any character, if she gets going, she can win. And that's actually going to be a common trend of characters in this cluster over here. That being said, I want to move on to my main here, Goldlewis. Oh, my boy. God, I love this character. Okay, so I want to get this out of the way. So many people downplay Goldlewis. And so many people upplay Goldlewis too, okay? You're all wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. I guarantee you. So, let's talk about a little bit of the strengths and weaknesses of this character at tournament level. I would put him a little worse than Ram, because her matchup spread is much better at tournament level. Actually, we're gonna do it like this. Okay. So let's go over the positives of Goldlewis. His offense is unbelievably bullshit. Like, even more than some of these characters under the right conditions. Like, if Goldlewis puts you in the corner, that is the most devastating pressure in the entire game. And even if you're right and you're defending correctly all the time, you just get chunked super hard or lose a decent amount of meter. Not nearly as much as you think, by the way, thanks to the FD changes in Season 2. Somehow people still think like, oh, I can't FD if I just lose all my meter in 2 PTs. That ain't how it works. Most of the time, if you are playing before you got put in the corner, you have enough meter to FD him out safely, unless he takes a risk to extend his pressure. But that's exactly wherein lies the rub, because this character can choose to just sacrifice safe pressure for like pseudo infinite pressure that is very scary to interrupt at any time, because he also just nukes you, absolutely nukes you if you get hit, especially if he has meter, especially if you're in the corner. I would say like people were looking into positive bonus loops for this character rather at the start of the season, but no one ever really did it. Why? Because if you wall break with super on Goldlewis, you already won. Like, imagine playing a character where well over half the time you're not playing, when you win rather, you're not playing having gone through the glass until the opponent dies. Yeah, that's what it's like to play Goldlewis. Obviously drone, so dumb, so dumb, like beyond dumb. Not only does it allow him to get in very safely against a lot of characters, although not perfectly safely, many characters have counterplay to it. The even more obnoxious thing about drone is that it enables some degenerate loop mix-ups in the corner, but he ends up splatting you, not slumping you like Happy Chaos, but he does way more damage. So honestly, putting the corner against Goldlewis and getting looped by his pressure, the net result is not that different from Happy Chaos. It's definitely less bullshit. Like, you can react to some of his mix. You can react to all of his mix actually, but it's very difficult. The main issue with Goldlewis, especially at tournament play compared to Baiken, for example, is that he can play the game much less than she can against some of these characters. Like these characters, especially Happy Chaos, give Goldlewis such a hard time. And on top of struggling with these ones up here, he also struggles with some of the ones down here that we'll get on later, which means he tends to be very strong against characters like in this entire middle orbit that we'll see. But the problem is, if you want to see him winning big tournaments, because these characters are so strong and overrepresented, he's basically guaranteed to run into his struggle matchups at some point. And obviously that's an issue that a lot of characters have, but that fundamentally makes Goldlewis a weaker tournament character, right? He also does have genuine counterplay. Like, he doesn't have a ton of true mix-ups, like, for example, Baiken left or rights, like off of a throw with Yazonsen or something like that. Goldlewis doesn't have a lot of that. The issue with Goldlewis is a lot of his mix is hard but not impossible to react to, but the problem is if you're wrong, you're just dead usually. Also, he has an amazing conditioning game. He's got a huge toolkit of moves to use. I could go on and on about this character. JD, super bullshit. Please stop downplaying Goldlewis. He is very strong in this version. The only reason he's not up here is that he struggles against these characters more or less. Like, if they nerf these characters, then everyone pretty much ends up at this cluster, and there's a very good chance, depending on how they're nerfed, that Goldlewis moves up very highly. Right. I'm actually going to make a full video on how good Goldlewis is really in this season, but TLDR, he is less consistent than these characters, even though his win condition is actually stronger than them if he manages to get going, with the exception of Happy Chaos, I would say. Yeah, I keep that in mind. Also, huge health pool, etc. I'm not going to milk it. Okay. I'm actually going to put Zato in here as well. I actually think Zato is super comparable to Goldlewis in terms of how good he is. He's flying under the radar a lot these days. And I don't really know why. I think it's because a lot of his players aren't competing. But he's really good still. A lot of what I said to Goldlewis applies to Zato too. He has a better mix-up game than Goldlewis for sure. And can do a much better job of setting up his win condition because his neutral is really good with Eddie. That's like the main thing that differentiates them, I would say. Zato gets a bit of mobility and much better neutral and better mix, but less health and less damage, and obviously executionally another hard character. But even more than Goldlewis, I would say, he like majorly struggles against these characters over here. Like, it's very hard to fight these guys with Zato, especially Ram and Happy Chaos. Those are just super difficult for him. I think he can play against Nago and Leo, but it's not easy. But the nice thing about Zato is, like I said, with characters in this cluster, he just needs to get his game plan going, and he can win. Like, these guys all have very strong and consistent win conditions, but sometimes it's really difficult to get them going before you're dead. He also has pretty mediocre / lackluster defense and a tiny health pool, right? Like, we don't factor in health and damage enough when we're evaluating how good characters are. It should definitely be a factor. Part of that is why Goldlewis ends up here. Even though he has a hard time against some of these characters, he can gamble a bit more because of his high health pool. But against these guys, gambling isn't worth it. Like, if you lose, you can get locked out the rest of the match. Against these guys, it's very worth it. He can just win off of being a monkey. Anyway, moving on from Zato, let's next talk about Chipp. Also, I think very similar. Very, very similar to these characters. I would even consider putting Chipp a little bit above Zato and Goldlewis, rather. Mostly because Chipp's speed lets him excel in the neutral game, even against these characters. I'm gonna sound like a broken record here, but again, very consistent and threatening game plan. Very good mix, very good strike throw, and actually quite a high damage character now. This guy basically gets conversions off of many, many starters and puts you through the wall and can pseudo-infinite you after that. And the game's kind of just over at that point. He has a DP as well. DP is useful, but extremely risky with Chipp for obvious reasons. In any case, this character's great, and the Chipps are popping off. Bean and Marbella have been doing so well lately. And there are lots of other Chipps around the world. I'm sure we'll see Zin in the future, and so on. This character's definitely good. And a big, big threat. So, let's next go to Jacko. So, I actually think Jacko is again... oops, let me try to get less white in there. There we go. Again, very similar to these guys. A big thing that Jackos get away with, I think, is knowledge checks. It's kind of similar for Goldlewis and Zato a lot of the time. But even then, even factoring that out, this character can just like rob you blind so easily in tournament. It's pretty easy to lose like 3-0 before you know what's happening against a Jacko. Like, oh, can I interrupt there? Can I check that? Is that plus? Because so many people don't know and they only have 3 to 5 games to figure it out, many times that works in Jacko's favor. She has a lot of matchups that she just straight up invalidates too, by the way. She does very, very well against Goldlewis. And she can do very, very well against Nago as well, and Leo. That makes her pretty solid. I will say, I'm no expert on Jacko, but I know that many Jacko players are serious believers in this character's capability. So part of why I'm putting her up here is trusting the word of the top Jacko players. They truly think that this character is really good. And I'm going to go along with it. She's got very good normals. She gets her minions down in the corner and pops super, and it's very, very scary for anyone. Tons of damage. Overall, quite a solid character. But I would say that because of the low health pool and kind of awkward neutral at ranges where she can't safely pull minions, she can be a little bit inconsistent. Definitely a bit more so than these characters, but still in the same cluster, I would say. Still kind of a similar idea. Same with Testament. Testament, great zoning, great damage, great conversions in Season 2, and so annoying to deal with most of all. Like, oh my god, is this character irritating. Obviously, I'm a little biased because I play Goldlewis, but Testament's Arbiter Sign being -12 is so annoying now. Building meter is quite easy with this character when you get to zone consistently. Obviously, maybe the best 6B in the entire game, and DLC 2K, absolute classic on Testament. Testament also has some weird spots that many people don't quite understand how to fight, but as an overall matter, I would definitely classify her as one of the stronger characters. Or them, excuse me. I always... Anyway. Testament has great corner pressure. It's very hard to escape, and you generally have to take a risk to do it. But Testament does have the 2-step neutral, can have a very hard time on defense, and is also one of the squishier characters. While Testament has good neutral, it's not on the same level as some of those top tiers, and Testament can have a hard time dealing with them, but does well against some of these characters as well. So that makes Testament relatively strong in my opinion. All right, moving on then to the next cluster of characters. Not too far off, I think, is going to end up being a lot of the strike throwers. But before we get into that, let's talk Axel. So, Axel's kind of an intricate character to discuss in terms of how viable he is, how good he is. Because the evidence is definitely there that this character is strong in a tournament setting. I don't think it's a matter of a lot of the good Axels being built different and just strictly better than everyone. I really don't believe that. They're definitely very good, don't get me wrong. But I think that this character just places a lot of stress on you. Once you get into a tournament bracket, finally, like, you sit down, you fight an Axel, it's like, ah, shit, I gotta remember how to get in against this character. And there's actually a lot of individual variance in how some Axel players zone, how willing some of them are to press 2k on defense, and of course their specific tech against your character. Lots of Axels prepare tons of tech, and it's really great. I like to see this character succeed, but he's very honest. If he beats you, a lot of the time it was just a matter of you being impatient, but it's really easy to get impatient in tournament setting. Like, there's no denying this is a strong tournament character. Like, he definitely performs well. The evidence is there to support it, okay? Quit it with the Axel downplay. I will grant that his victory is much slower and like death by 1,000 cuts a lot of the time. So you don't get like these huge explosive bombos that pretty much everyone that I've already listed can get at times and just delete your health bar. Like, that just doesn't quite happen with Axel. But his normals are so annoying. Like, this character's keep out game is really, really great. And if you're someone with good reaction time and good neutral and good patience, then you can kind of roll up prepared to fight anyone at a tournament. And that doesn't mean you're going to be favored, but it's definitely something that puts you at an advantage with this character's toolkit compared to a lot of other characters here. Especially given the fact that matchup-wise, Axel is pretty relevant into these characters. Does pretty well. I would say beats Leo, arguably beats Nago. And I don't know about Ram. I'd imagine he struggles. But I think that he does decently against Happy Chaos too. Like, we've seen some very strong NA Axels beat some very strong NA Happy Chaoses on a semi-regular basis. In fact, tonight, as I'm making this video, Remy Celeste managed to beat Umisho. Umisho started the set on Soul, but switched to Happy Chaos, and Remy managed to do it after previously losing, but making it a very close set against Umisho's Happy Chaos as well. So it's doable for sure. Like, this character is great, but he struggles very much with risk reward, especially on defense. Like, he gets on defense, and his reward is almost non-existent for mashing out, but his risk is insane because he dies so easily, and because all he can mash is that 2k, because he's not going to mash 5p. He's definitely not going to mash 6p as well, and that means some of these characters can just run train on Axel, which makes him a good bit weaker than these guys over here, I think. Yeah, he's just not nearly as oppressive. He's just much more annoying, but he's still pretty hard to adapt to in a short span of time, and I think that's something a good amount of Axel players definitely underrate, is just how little time in tournament people have to understand how to play around your particular style of zoning, right? You have to factor that in. Okay, let's move on. I would put Soul over here as well. Soul a little bit stronger than Axel for sure. He's actually almost gonna make it up here with these guys, but I would say he's still separated a little bit. And the reason why is because he used to be known for like crazy high damage, jack of all trades, you know, a tool for everything kind of situation. Guess what? Everyone here does way higher damage than him, and they have better tools than him in almost every situation as well. So he's fallen off quite a lot because of that, right? Because, you know, these characters are just so disgusting now that they've been highly developed. And Soul's development has been like a step further toward optimizing his combos, which is always great. But he majorly lacks. You have to put in so much work with this character. to be able to get the same reward. Like if I weren't talking tournament level, I would put Soul a good amount lower than this, because you have to work hard. You have to know your bombos, you have to know the matchups, the DP spots, etc. At the end of the day though, he still does have pretty strong offense. Like he has a very good conditioning game. He can just explode you, and he has really great movement. I think is a big thing that people tend to miss with him. Like watch skill, it's just a work of art. Or Mochi, the way they just navigate around their opponents. And because he still does do high damage, because sometimes he can play like he's playing in Season 1, he can stress you out, for sure. I also think in tournament, people like tend to not be scared of Soul when they fight him. And that can give really good Soul players an edge, because once they win a game or do a big bombo and win off of it, the other guy kind of goes like, oh shit. At least in my case, I'm like, oh shit, this guy just did that. I actually kind of have to game. Then that starts making them play sloppy, and you know, that's good. That's a good quality to have as a tournament player. Yeah, he's not quite on these guys' levels though, because he can't enforce his win condition nearly as hard. Like he has to take risks or have a good read on the opponent, and if you just knock the opponent down once, it's pretty hard to have a good read on them in 5 games. Like how are you going to play a random player that's, let's assume, is similar to your skill level, and just be able to like know what they're thinking immediately with Soul? Like you don't have much to work with to figure that out. You've got your stagger pressure and your good normals, but so does everyone else, except they also have super oppressive specials and mix-ups built into their kit. Soul just doesn't. That's what ultimately keeps him below some of these other guys, in my opinion. Similar to Soul, I think, is Mei. Let's see if I can grab her. Yeah, I'd say Soul and Mei are extremely comparable right now. Almost everything I said applies to Mei. In fact, I would say that pretty much everything I said applies to Mei, except she kind of compromises music for better normals in neutral, like far/2s, and she's got the burst option with the dolphin. It's very good. This character ended up being stronger than I think most people were believing at first in Season 2, and thankfully Slash went and proved that by getting second at EVO. But again, she has to take risks on offense, and that is such a major drawback. That is something that is definitely holding characters back now from before. It used to be that their reward justified taking risks on offense, like Soul and Mei, but nowadays when you compare that to the risk that some of these other characters have to take on offense for the reward that they get, it's really hard to call her being much higher than this, I think. But she's still Mei. Like she still has the great JH. Dolphin's still annoying. And the red RC change is actually, removing scaling, brought back a good amount of her damage, even though she has gotten some damage nerfs. So this character can cook. Like these guys over here, they can cook. They're definitely not bad, if you ask me. They're just not great. And moving on to yet another strike thrower, I'm going to put Gio in pretty much the exact same spot. God, I really messed up her picture. You'll just have to deal with that. But I actually think all of these 3 strike throw characters, they're pretty similar levels of viability, for sure. Yeah, pretty similar. So Gio, her unique quality out of these 3 is that her whiff punish game is just incredible, and she has an amazing backwalk that you can use to play neutral with. Like, there are some characters that you can literally whiff punish from like 2/3 or more of the screen away, like Goldlewis. If he ever, I mean, they shouldn't be doing this, but if he throws out a raw BT in neutral, Gio can just fly across the map with her new deep dash and 5k and bonk you on the head. She can do that even against the top tiers, though. That's what makes her good. Having a good Gio, someone who's good at neutral and good at whiff punishment, she can cook. You know, she can definitely perform well, even against some of these really good characters. We've seen evidence, I'd say, that some of the best Gios can compete against these characters. Actually, her matchup spread against this entire top 4, not that bad. Much, much better than a lot of the characters here. Gio tends to get a lot of downplay, though. I think part of that is, again, like, her game plan is pretty linear. Even more linear than Soul and Mei, because at least they can schmix you a little bit with a command grab and with meter. and their mix-ups are pretty rewarding. Gia's mix is not really great. She's much more about conditioning, and a lot of the time it's feast or famine with her, especially on the risk reward. But she's overall a really solid character, for sure, just significantly underrepresented. I think all these characters suffer from the fact that you need to download your opponent quickly if you want to succeed in tournament with them, or you just need to be way better. So those are kind of issues that hold them back from being any higher, if you ask me. But they have the damage and they have the consistency to be there. They just lack the mix, and they lack the threat on offense, I would say, compared to the people above them. Okay, let's talk about Faust. So I'm gonna try to be unbiased here, but if you guys know me at all or watch my Twitch, I hate this character. Oh my god, is he so unfun to play against. I actually think he's sort of similar to Axel though, in terms of how good he is at tournament level. I would say he's severely underrated by a lot of people. This character has great normals, and he's so weird. Like, no one knows what of their kit can be crawled under by Faust. I'm sorry, just no one knows it. No one knows what to do when a mini Faust gets pulled. Some people just run into it. Other people just, like, fuck off and let him pull 3 more items. Me. He's just, oh, he's annoying. And he's another character where it's like really hard to adjust to the individual Faust player's playstyle within bracket. Like, are they a J2K enjoyer? Are they an item toss enjoyer? Are they like a scalpel enjoyer? How much 6H bonkage should I be expecting? All of that is hard to adjust to in the short term, and it can be really hard to figure out like how to crack to get in against this character a lot of the time before you've just lost. He also has actually a very rewarding command grab as well. Super underrated. What this character gets off command grab is nasty. It is nasty. He sets up some really great mix, can do fuzzy overheads, high damage rewards, can threaten the re-grab at any time pretty much, and cover himself with the ignited afro. And nowadays he just benefits off of most items compared to before. Now the issue with Faust is that he really struggles with some of these characters over here. Like, I am pretty confident in saying he gets dumpstered by most of these characters. I think he can play against Nago, but even Nago can, I mean, he's Nago, so even in the hard quote-unquote matchups for Nago, more than anyone, it just takes like 1 hit to get gaming, and it's not very hard to get that hit. That's the difference between Nago and Goldlewis, by the way. Nago can get going so much easier than he can. I digress. But yeah, very annoying. Actually very solid conversions in Season 2, especially with the 5k clone changes. Solid neutral, and just weird. Just hard to figure out quickly in tournament. That gives him points if you ask me. Now, I'm gonna bring one into the unsure tier for a second, and that's going to be Bridget. We really haven't quite seen enough of this character for me to confidently be able to give a rating. If I were to give her a rating, it would probably be somewhere on the lower end of this cluster. Like, I think she's definitely solid, but it's very hard to know. There aren't a ton of Bridgets running around and competing. Days is a great Bridget and competes and does well. Also a great Geo player, by the way, and Kai player, just a great player overall. But you know, he's pretty much the only one I've seen in the online scene regularly. There's a dude named Yo-Yo Master that was doing well kind of recently, but I also haven't seen much of them. This character is winnable, but I mean, you have to understand, a lot of the time they're getting away with like major knowledge checks because she's unpopular and no one knows what the hell to do against her. But I mean, you know, she has good mix and she can loop it pretty consistently. Very good normals and pretty good mix-ups as well. But it's just hard to rate her because her DP is pretty shitty, her damage is low, her risk reward is not great. And I really don't know how much of her stuff is fake and real, so I don't have a super strong opinion of how good this character is right now. Okay. Who should we do next? Let's look at Kai. I think that this character is a little bit weaker than Faust, I would say, bit weaker than Faust. So part of the reason for that is that while Kai sacrifices having a pretty solid strike throw game and a pretty decent mid-range game, or I'm sorry, he gets that over Faust. He's so like one-dimensional, even still, you know, and he's got relatively slowish normals and neutral like 2S far slash. They're not great. He's just so you know what I mean? He's an all-arounder, but pretty much everything can do anything that he does, but better. In fact, I'm confident in saying everyone in the entire game can do anything he does, but strictly better. Everyone. There's something that he does that everyone can do better than him. And that's kind of an issue. Some Kai players are just cracked, though. Like, they schmoove and they've got a great strike throw game. You can play with this character, but I really don't think it's worth it in tournament. And the biggest issue is he's not stressful to fight at all. Like, he really isn't stressful to fight. And in a tournament setting, that's like a big thing, is how stressful you are to fight against. That's an issue for sure. Okay, so let's move on from Kai. We've got characters with kind of opposite issues coming up here. So let's start by getting into Ino. So Ino, I would say as an overall matter, similarly strong to Kai, and she actually is very stressful and annoying to fight against. And she can rob you blind in tournaments, she has that capability. But her approach is just so bad for what you're getting. And yeah, she's got good mix. Yeah, she can loop it. Yeah, it's hard to block. Does it do much damage? No. Can she get it started from anywhere on the screen? Definitely not. She has to come straight to you with like an air dash, more or less, on top of that, or commit to a move that can be hit by most aerials and many normals as well. That gets her punished, and she has bad defense, and she's pretty squishy. Those are issues for Ino. Those are real issues. Also, we look at her matchup spread. You know, I really don't know who this character beats. Like, I'm thinking off the top of my head here. I don't think with any confidence I would say that she beats literally any of these characters. Like past Jacko and Testament, I don't think that she beats a single one of these characters. Not one. Okay. That's a problem. But, you know, I realize I have 2 Potemkins here. Why do I have 2 Potemkins? Let's delete that. Let's talk about Millia as well. More or less the same situation as Ino. Good mix, you know. She has good neutral, unlike Ino, and she can loop her mix. But hers is actually not even that hard to block. It can be annoying, but the risk reward, terrible. It's so bad on this character, and it's so easy to oppress her and like kill her in one hit. And I really don't think we've seen any Millias pop off in Season 2. I can't confidently say she's a good tournament player. Like, Rat's done well, Kazam's done well, Walta, and I think in EU they've got like a Millia infestation. A lot of good players over there pilot this character, so she can cook. You know, she can win, but she's really not great. Speaking of not great, put this guy all the way over here. Yeah. Remember how I said I can't think of a single like winning matchup for Ino? At least I can think of somewhere I'm like not sure. You know, like, I don't know how it goes, and she can at least cook you. Potemkin? Yeah. I'm confident in saying this character shouldn't win any matchup at tournament level. Not one. Every character can just oppress the shit out of him. Every character can exploit his terrible offense, where he's pretty much limited to like an 8-frame button or back Mega Fist. And yeah, no dash. Bad everything. You know, I'm trying to think, what are the pluses on this character? Well, he does big damage, and he's a grappler. Okay, who else does big damage? Like, everyone. It's the thing in Season 2 with some of the RC changes that allow for these conversions and just the way that people have developed their characters. Like, having big damage doesn't make you all that unique anymore. Having good risk-reward for your damage, that's much more what sets people apart. And Potts is fucking abysmal. It's like the worst in the game, pretty much. Because his defense is so bad. And because he literally has to guess on offense as much as you have to guess defending against him. And if he's wrong, he can easily get vortexed to death against any character because his defense is so bad. Not only that, but against the relevant characters, he's terrible. He's so bad against these characters. Even Goldlewis, who is not super popular, actually, at tournament level. Definitely not one of the more popular characters. Like, he just destroys Potemkin. It's completely invalidated. That's the worst matchup in the game, by the way, if you ask me. Okay. Pot needs love in Season 2, right? We can all agree on that. Pot definitely needs love. Anji. A good bit better than Pot. Anji can, like, kind of play the game at least. Because, you know, he got staggers, kind of. You know, he got Fujin. Is this character invalidated by instant block? Yeah. So it's really just, it is definitely a skill issue. It's literally a skill issue. Just IB, and you will stop losing to Anjis. I can say that from experience. But yeah, this is another character where the risk reward is awful. Like, he doesn't even get anything off of normal hits, really. He needs like a close slash starter to get anything. He has very good conversions with meter though, and he can kind of condition you. He can build meter pretty quickly, but he's just so much weaker than these other characters. His win con is so non-threatening. It's like, whereas Kai might be dry, and his win con doesn't put any stress on you, Anji's like you're almost happy in a way that he's in his win con. Obviously, it would be better if anything else were the case, like you're in neutral or you're in your win con. But if Anji gets going, like no other character, he can just like lose his win con out of nothing. Either that, or he takes no risks and has like the worst pressure in the game as a result of that. So, kind of pick your poison when it comes to playing Anji. Bad character, needs buffs. He can still play the game though. Sin? I have no idea. I really have no idea. Okay, have we not learned our lesson about underrating characters? Like, when they're very, very new at the game? Why? Why haven't we gotten over that? I don't understand. There are so many people calling this guy low tier and bad. Does he have slow frame data on his neutral buttons? /2s? Yeah. You know what else he has? He can convert into super off of any special. That's insane. Like, I don't think people realize how big of a deal that is. That he can kind of just coast to coast you super easily, do a fast overhead, and get a super off of it. That's so good. He does good damage, really good conversions, but obviously, as of the making of this video, this character is like a week old. So who knows where he's gonna go. I will say I really like him, and I think the upper bound for this character is like Baiken, in this version at least. I'm trying to think of one thing that he does better than Baiken, and I really can't. Like, his mix is way worse. She's also got the overhead. She's got way higher damage. She's got the parry, which I left out when I talked about her, by the way. That factors in. It's a really strong defensive option on her. 4 frame, 5p, and 9 frame par slash as well. Again, I digress, but yeah, I just don't see anything that Sin does better than Baiken, aside from the fact that he can convert into super. Like, that's a huge plus. I think people need to start valuing that more and thinking of that as what makes him unique, having the ability to get great conversions. If they make car RTL more consistent, like off of more follow-ups in season, well, 2.5, I guess, coming in a few weeks here, I think Sin could potentially be very strong, especially in tandem with some buffs on his normals. Like, if they give Far Slash a bit of a disjoint, or make it faster, yeah, he could cook. But we'll see. You know, I'm excited to see where Sin goes. I think he's not nearly as lame to fight Yeah. Anyway, this is all my opinion, goons. I want to say a few overall remarks before we finish, and maybe take one last look at this, see if there's anything I would reconsider. Let's go left to right. Give a quick little review of everyone. Happy Chaos, another level of bullshit, no losing matchups. Stupid execution, quote unquote, that doesn't justify this character's absolute atrocities that he can do. Best conversion ability in the game, best mix-ups in the game, most consistent game plan in the game. By the way, I don't know how Happy Chaos players enjoy doing literally the same thing to every single player that they fight. I don't get it. I play Goldlewis, by the way. But anyway, yeah, there's not much more to say about him. Ram, very consistent, great neutral, high damage, arguably the best risk reward in this game. This character takes like no risks, and in reward can explode you and automatically burst safe combos. Yeah, dumb, very dumb. Also, that's one thing that makes me unique among these characters, but we'll get here. Nago, yeah, probably has the easiest time going from neutral to advantage state of any character in the game, and that advantage state is also one of the scariest in the game simultaneously. So you put those two together and you get a menace. He's also got 5k, good buttons to contest with, to scrap with, all extremely high reward. Counter hit 5k, this character can literally just annihilate you. Like, I don't really get it, why he does so much damage. I don't, but so do I, so you know what? It's okay, Nago can have it. Only reason he's worse than Ram in my book, consistency. He has matchup issues more than she does, even if he wins some matchups much harder than she does. Yeah. Leo, great defense, stupid DP, also amazing risk reward on this character, and he's just a bulldog. The step dash actually kind of helps him get in. So many Leo players have a clean dash block, and I don't think it's because they're built different. I think it's because the step dash helps a lot with that. In any case, Leo's got yet another really consistent, really good win condition. How many games have you played against a Leo where they didn't get in back turn and get to mix you? Right? Like almost every single game, they get to try winning at least once, and it's so scary because they can just do it till you die. As a lot of characters, so Leo becomes a lot scarier the better the player is, though. I want to emphasize that. He's got a great matchup spread too. All these characters up here, they have great matchup spreads. That makes them the best tournament characters overall. Baiken, great damage, great mix-up, great matchup spread, great defense. Makes her pretty good tournament character. We haven't seen a lot of her at tournament level though, you know? I'd like to see more of you Baiken players show out. We don't get Memo Carp or Shinfil entering online scenes much. Zentai enters, Zentai does well. I think Pork Laser has a pretty good Baiken too, as far as I'm aware. So, you know, they're out here, but not competing enough if you ask me. This character's good. I truly believe that this character will do well. But there's definitely a considerable gap between these premium characters and this cluster of characters as well. Like, I think I spaced this correctly here, which is what I would say, like, the gap between Happy Chaos and the premium characters is, like, similar to the gap between the premium characters in the next cluster, right? So a lot of these characters here, they're pretty close. Like, this cluster that I'm circling right now, I believe they're all similarly strong to one another. Yeah, so Chipp, pretty much said everything I need to say with him. Great aggression, great neutral, great damage, great conversions, and also a very consistent win condition. He just puts you through the glass with super. And he's Chipp gaming. Goldlewis, crazy high health pool, crazy strong damage. JD, drone. That's pretty much all you need to know. Pretty much all she wrote with him. Weakness, matchups, has some hard matchups, struggles with the top tiers especially, which kind of puts a cap on him compared to some of these other characters over here, into making it super far into tournaments. But it's definitely doable. Like, he can just hit you and win against anyone. It applies, but it's all about the consistency of doing so. That's what puts him below some of these other characters. I'm not downplaying, by the way. Trust me, I am not downplaying. Zato. Yeah. Also, just a devastating win condition. So strong and great neutral with this character, but yet again struggles with matchups that he's pretty much guaranteed to run into in brackets. That's his issue. Now Testament, also amazing conversions, also pretty solid damage and scary pressure. But these guys can pull out some tech on you in tournaments, and that can be hard to adjust to quickly. And I also think that Testament is like serially underrated for some reason. Like, people aren't scared of this character in a lot of instances. You should be. Testament's oppressive. Jacko. Yeah, it really just benefits from like people not knowing what's going on against her in tournament. You don't have enough time to learn what this character does before you get hoed. And that's all she wrote when it comes to Jacko. Now let's talk about the strike throwers. These characters, their risk reward doesn't justify their game plan compared to the better characters than them. That's their main issue. Mei, she gets the burst options. She gets the 4-frame 5p, I guess. Do all of them have 4-frame 5ps, actually? I think they do. She has the best hitbox on it, though, for sure. But yeah, Mei is just solid, you know, overall. I'd say she has a little bit better damage on average compared to the other two strike throwers, and she's got the burst options over them as well. Soul, good damage, good ability to condition, still a decent all-arounder, but very committal, similar to Mei and Geo. Also, one thing Mei has over these characters, her neutral pokes, like I said, they're a little bit better, I think. A little bit less committal, little bit less committal, little bit less telegraph. Now Geo, her gimmick, great whiff punishment, and very, very good frame data on her normals. So staggering with normals alone, stronger on Geo than these other two characters. Axel. Yeah, a really good character, annoying to fight, but he wins surgically. He doesn't win by exploding you, and that means that oh god, how am I gonna phrase this? He can get comebacked upon. I was the first version of that sounded much worse. Yeah, more than a lot of these characters. Like, it's harder for him to just loop his win condition, because his win condition is kind of playing neutral in a way. Like, he doesn't have a super well-defined advantage state. It's more or less like when you're in far slash range-ish, it's like Axel's advantage state, but compare that to like Goldlewis when there's a drone coming at you in that same range. It's like there's no comparison. But he's still very annoying to fight, and there's still good evidence that this character succeeds at tournament level. Stop downplaying him. Same thing for Faust. So annoying. So hard to adjust to in a short amount of time, and it's so easy, at least for me, and I have decent mental, to get tilted to this character and just lose. And that's an advantage. The mental game is a real thing in tournament. So many people just don't know what he's doing, too, and he's got low committal normals that are very good. Now watch Apology Man. He uses that 5p all the time. He's got a great 2k, too, you know? Very useful tech that these guys have with hurtbox shifting and whatnot on Faust. A lot of things that your character, you as a player, you're probably not aware of, and he can just do it to you in tournament. But yeah, would I say that he beats any of the super relevant characters? No, I would not. The only one I would say he for sure beats that's like a quite a relevant character is like Goldlewis. I definitely think Faust is significantly favored into Goldlewis, but that's for another day. Millia. Yeah, she's got mix. How does she set it up though? Well, you got hit by a 2k2d, or you got hit by her flying around being a mosquito in neutral. That shouldn't be happening consistently at a high level tournament. And it doesn't. Spoiler. It doesn't happen consistently. That's why none of the NA ones have ever won a significant bracket, if you ask me. And they're just getting shot by Happy Chaos while they're up there, or they're getting run undered by Ram, who has your same ground speed more or less, or they're just dying to Nago. So on and so forth. Yeah. You got mix, other characters have mix. You got movement, other characters have movement. No real reason to play her. You know? Yeah. Talk about committal. This character is very committal. I hate this character, actually. She's so annoying. I hate her design. But I can't deny that she's definitely not a very strong tournament character. These guys over here, not a very good matchup spread. And that's a problem. That's definitely a problem. For Ino in particular, she kind of blows against all the top tiers. And that's an issue. At least Kai kind of can play against the top tiers. He can game, you know, he can do his thing, but not super well. It's not super scary. He can schmove. Not super well. It's not super scary. He can hit confirm. Not super well. You get the point. Yeah, I don't think Kai is all that great. We'll see though. He'll probably get another Dragon Install buff. Something coming up. Who knows? He's not bad. I want to say this real quick. Everyone like in this box, including the ones I'm unsure about, I believe all of them can win a big offline major. Like a really great player can win with them, for sure. It's just about the consistency with which they can do so. I might even consider moving Goldlewis down a little bit, actually, just because he's like guaranteed to run into these matchups, but we'll leave him there. We'll leave him there. He's a very strong character, but when I say move him down a little bit, I mean move him like 20 pixels to the right. You know, not much. He's really good. But we'll see. You know, he's still a bit underrepresented offline. Obviously, Gobo won the Arc World Tour qualifier. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. Anji, this character, I think Juro, I'm positive actually Juro is the only one in the world that could win a big offline tournament. I don't think there's any others, and I don't even think it's close. I don't mean to disrespect the Anji players. That's just a function of like everything I said about this character almost being dysfunctional in a way, where like when you're winning, you're still kind of not winning in a way, because other characters do what you do so much better and with so much less risk, and you have to get there to start off with this like, how do you even get going with Anji? How? You know, like what does this character throw out in neutral that's a threat? I don't know. Potemkin, I think Snake Eyes could like top 8 big offline majors. He's an incredible player. Incredible. There are so many people that for some reason like just shoot me down immediately when I say that I think Snake Eyes could perform really well at an offline major. Play him. Go play him. Find him when he's streaming and go play him, and then come back to me, okay? Because I promise you that like outside of maybe literally players I can count on one hand, you will not cook this guy without getting clipped. You won't. You won't even cook him at all, actually. Anywho, yeah, that's Snake Eyes. Every other pop player, they have literally no chance. Literally no chance of even making top 8s, I would say. Winning, much less so. Because when I said Goldlewis is pretty much guaranteed to run into his struggle matchups, Pot is literally guaranteed to run into his struggle matchups, like from round 1 in a tournament. Oh, it's so bad. Oh man, I feel bad for this character, and he's hyped to watch too. I really hope they buff him. Time will tell though. Anyway, goons, that's all from me for this video. I think upcoming I'm going to make a detailed video on really how good I, as a top representative of Goldlewis, think he is. And I want to re-emphasize on that note, just to end off here. Your character, I don't think it will serve you at all to think to yourself how good they are in the tier list, or like I only lost because X character is better than my character. We're both of equal skill. Yeah, that's gonna happen, because guess what? No game has characters that are equally viable. Like, not a single one in any genre. It just doesn't work that way. It's not possible. You can try to minimize the differences between them. And honestly, I think we're almost there. I think if they move this cluster just a little bit to the right, they can even stay the top 5 except Happy Chaos, or the top 4 rather, except Happy Chaos. Fuck him. And I think we'd be okay as long as they're just closer to these characters. Same with these guys. Move them in closer, huddle everyone together, and we almost have a balanced game. That's what I'm trying to narrate with this type of tier here. This type of tier list here, rather. Like, anyone can cook. Truly. Okay? Just believe in your character. It will benefit you in the end. It won't benefit you to concentrate on how bad your character is and doom over them. Pretty much ever. Okay? When you lose, think to yourself it's skill issue. Unless you lost to Happy Chaos. Right, goons. That's all from me. And if you somehow sat through this entire video, I appreciate it. Please check out my Twitch at twitch.tv/me_Lolo. Goodbye.